On a small mining colony far from Earth, the sky was dark with stars, and the cold metal walls of the base echoed with the sound of machines. The colony was home to many kinds of aliens and humans, all working together to gather precious minerals. But not all species were friends. Among them, dragons were feared and hated. Mira was a young human nurse. She was kind, careful, and always ready to help every day. She cared for miners and workers who got hurt on the dangerous colony. She believed in helping anyone who needed her, no matter what species they were. One morning, while Mira was checking supplies near the edge of the mining site, she heard a soft, weak noise coming from a pile of rocks. Curious, she moved closer and found a small creature lying there. It was a baby dragon, no bigger than her hand, with shiny scales that changed colors in the light. Its eyes were closed, and it breathed very softly. Mira's heart beat fast. She had heard many stories about dragons. They were said to be dangerous and wild. The colony leaders had strict rules. No one was allowed to help or even touch a dragon. They believed dragons brought trouble and destruction. But this baby was hurt and alone. Mira could not leave it to die. She gently picked up the hatchling and wrapped it in her jacket. It stirred and opened its small eyes, looking at her with trust. Mira smiled softly. "I will take care of you," she whispered. Back in the nurse's room, Mira cleaned the hatchling's small wounds and gave it some warm water. She named it Koro. Every day, Mira secretly fed Koro and kept him safe in a small hidden box. Koro grew a little stronger each day, and he started to move more and even made small happy sounds. Mira knew she was breaking the rules. If anyone found out, she could lose her job or worse. But she believed Koro was not a danger. He was just a baby, like a child who needed help. One day, Mira's friend Tilo, an alien mechanic, came by. Tilo was tall with green skin and big eyes, but he was kind and trusted Mira. He noticed her tired face and asked, "Mira, why do you look worried?" Mira looked around and then quietly showed Tilo the small box. Koro blinked his bright eyes at Tilo, who gasped softly, "A dragon hatchling. Mira, this is very dangerous. The council will be angry if they find out," Tilo said. "I know," Mira replied, "but I cannot let him die. He is hurt and scared. He needs me." Tilo nodded slowly. "I will help you keep the secret, but be careful. Not everyone will understand." Days passed. Koro grew bigger and stronger. He followed Mira's voice and even learned to respond when she called his name. Mira felt a deep bond with the little dragon. She dreamed of a day when dragons and humans could live peacefully. But not everyone on the colony shared her hope. One afternoon, the colony's security officer, a tall alien named Varn, came to the nurse's room. Varn had sharp eyes and a cold voice. "Mira, there are reports of a forbidden creature near the mining area," Varn said. "We will search the base. You must tell me if you know anything." Mira's heart sank. She looked at Koro, who hid quietly in his box. She wanted to tell the truth but feared the consequences. "No, I have not seen anything," Mira said, trying to sound calm. Varn studied her closely but said nothing more. That night, Mira stayed awake, worried about Koro and the colony. She knew she could not hide forever. The council's fear of dragons was strong, but she believed that Koro was proof that dragons could be kind. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded through the base. The public announcement system warned all workers to stay indoors. The council was holding a meeting about the recent sightings of the dragon hatchling. Mira knew the truth was coming out. She felt scared, but also determined. The next morning, the colony's leader, an alien called Hera, stood before a large crowd. Her voice was firm and loud. "This colony cannot allow danger to grow among us," Hera said. "The dragons are enemies of peace. Any who aid them will be punished." Mira listened, her heart pounding. She felt the eyes of many people on her, some full of fear, some of anger. Suddenly, Varn stepped forward. "We have found evidence that a human nurse has been hiding a dragon hatchling. We will search her quarters." Mira knew the moment had come. As the security team entered her room, Mira gently took Koro in her arms. The hatchling stirred and made a small sound. Mira's eyes filled with tears. I saved him because he needed help. She said softly, "He is not a danger." The officers took Cora away, and Mira was taken to the holding cells. She felt sadness, but also hope. She believed that Cora was not alone. Somewhere, other dragons still lived, and maybe they would come. That night, Mira lay on the hard bed, thinking about the little dragon she saved. She hoped the truth about dragons would be known one day, and she promised herself she would keep fighting for peace, no matter the cost. The morning sun shone weakly through the small window of the holding cell where Mira sat. The cold walls felt hard and empty. Mira's heart was heavy, but her spirit stayed strong. She was not a criminal. She only helped a small creature that needed care. Outside, the colony was restless. News had spread quickly that a human nurse had saved the dragon hatchling. Many workers whispered in fear. Some looked at Mira with anger. Others looked away, afraid to speak. The alien council gathered in a large hall. They were serious and strict. The leader, Hera, sat at the head, her eyes sharp like a hawk's. The council's job was to keep peace and safety on the colony. They believed dragons were dangerous. They believed helping them was a crime. A tall council member named Sarn stood and spoke. "This human nurse has broken the law. She has endangered all of us. By aiding the enemy, we must show that such actions will not be tolerated." Hera nodded. "We will hold a public trial. Everyone will see that helping dragons is wrong. The law is clear. Punishment will follow." Meanwhile, Mira waited in her cell. Her mind was full of worry. What would happen to Cora? What would happen to her? She had only wanted to save a life. Suddenly, the door opened. 2 guards came in and led Mira out. She was taken to the council hall. Many eyes watched her as she walked. Some shouted words she did not understand. Some stared in silence. In the hall, Mira stood before the council. Her voice was steady, but soft. "I saved Cora because he was hurt. He was a baby. I did what any nurse should do." A council member named Varn, the security officer, spoke. "Next, the dragons have caused destruction in many places. They cannot be trusted. Helping them is helping our enemies." Mira looked at the crowd. Some people nodded. Others seemed unsure. Then, a witness came forward. A miner named Luro stepped up. "I saw the hatchling near the mining fields. It was not dangerous. It looked scared and alone." A murmur went through the crowd. Mira felt hope. Maybe not everyone was afraid. But then, Hera's voice rang out. "Fear is not a bad thing. It keeps us safe. The dragons are wild creatures. We do not know what they might do when they grow." Mira shook her head. "Cora is not wild. He trusted me. He is kind." The council spoke among themselves. After a moment, Hera spoke again. "Mira, you will be held until we decide your punishment. You have broken the law and endangered the colony." Mira was led away. Her heart ached. But she kept thinking of Cora. Back in the hidden room where Cora was kept, the small dragon looked sad. The guards watched him closely. Cora missed Mira's gentle voice. He wished she was there. Days passed. Mira sat in the cold cell, feeling lonely but not broken. She thought about the stories she had heard from her grandmother about dragons. Long ago, dragons were protectors, friends of many species. Something had changed, and fear had grown. One day, a guard named Jex came to her cell. He was different from the others. His eyes showed kindness. He sat down beside her and spoke quietly. "I do not agree with the council," Jex said. "I have seen many things. I believe you helped because you cared. That is brave." Mira smiled. Faintly, "Thank you, Jex. I hope others will see the truth someday." Meanwhile, news of the trial spread across the colony. Some workers joined to support Mira. They spoke quietly to each other, hoping for a chance to change the council's mind, but others were afraid. They believed the council was right. They did not want trouble. On the day before the final decision, the colony was quiet. Mira looked out from her cell window at the darkening sky. She wondered if Cora was safe. She hoped the little dragon was still alive. Suddenly, A loud sound broke the silence. Outside, alarms blared. Lights flashed red. The colony was under attack. Mira's heart jumped. She listened to distant sounds of explosions and shouting. The colony's walls shook. The guards hurried past her cell, rushing to prepare defenses. Jex looked at Mira, worry in his eyes. Stay here. Be safe. But Mira felt a strong urge to help. She could not stay locked away while danger came. The door to her cell opened again. This time, it was Hera. Her face was serious, but not angry. Mira, she said, the colony needs everyone now. We may need your help. Mira stood quickly. Tell me what to do. Hera hesitated. The enemy is strong. We don't know why they have come. But they must be stopped. Mira nodded. Fear mixed with hope. Maybe this was her chance to prove that helping Korra was right. As Mira left the cell, she thought about the dragon hatchling she saved. She hoped Korra's kind would come to protect the colony, because soon everything was going to change. The colony was no longer calm. The sky outside was filled with flashes of light from distant explosions. The strange enemy ships had attacked quickly, causing fear and confusion. Mira walked through the busy halls of the base, helping where she could. Even though she was no longer locked in her cell, the council had not yet cleared her name. She was still under suspicion, but now she had a chance to show her true strength. In a small hidden room, far from the battle, the dragon hatchling Korra was growing stronger every day. Mira had secretly arranged for the guards to keep Korra safe. During the chaos, Korra was no longer a helpless baby. His scales had become brighter, and his eyes shone with life. Mira visited Korra often, whispering softly to calm him. You must be brave, little one. The colony is in danger, but we will face it together. Korra responded by moving his small wings and making soft sounds. He trusted Mira completely. She was his friend and protector. One afternoon, as Mira fed Korra, she noticed something new. Korra was learning quickly. He watched her carefully, and when she spoke his name, he moved closer. Mira smiled. You are smart, Korra. You will help us all. Mira thought about the stories her grandmother told her long ago. Dragons had once been great protectors of the galaxy. They had wisdom and strength beyond any other creatures. But fear and misunderstanding had turned many away from dragons. The colony's leaders still believed dragons were enemies, but Mira knew better. Back in the main hall, the council worked hard to plan defense. Hera spoke with other leaders, worried about the strange attackers. No one knew who they were or why they wanted to destroy the colony. Mira found a quiet moment and spoke with Tilo, her friend the mechanic. The colony needs hope. Maybe Korra and his kind can bring that. Tilo nodded slowly. If dragons are really as powerful as the old stories say, then maybe they can save us. Suddenly, the alarm sounded again. The enemy ships were returning, stronger this time. The colony's defenses were pushed to their limits. Explosions shook the walls, and fires burned in some parts. Mira hurried to the hidden room. Korra looked frightened. Mira held him close. It's okay, Korra. We must be strong now. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. Then, something unexpected happened. A deep roar echoed through the colony. The sound was powerful and full of life. Mira and the others froze. From the distant mountains, huge shapes appeared. Dragons. They flew through the sky, their scales shining like jewels, their wings strong and wide. The colony workers stopped in amazement. The dragons were coming to protect the place. Korra moved quickly, his small body glowing with energy. He let out a happy cry and took flight toward the dragons. Mira watched with tears in her eyes. The dragons were real. They were here to help. The attacking ships fired their weapons, but the dragons were faster and stronger. They breathed fire that melted metal and struck with claws that broke shields. The colony's defenders joined the fight, inspired by the dragons' courage. Mira rushed to help the wounded. She saw soldiers fighting bravely and dragons protecting them. Korra flew close to Mira, letting her know he was safe after a long and hard battle. The enemy ships began to retreat. The dragons chased them away, roaring victoriously. The colony was saved, The council called for a meeting. This time, Hera's voice was softer. We have been wrong to fear the dragons. They are our allies, not our enemies. Mira felt hope growing inside her. She had believed in Koro and the dragons. And now others could see the truth. Koro grew bigger every day. He learned to understand the humans and aliens around him. He was no longer just a hatchling, he was a symbol of hope. Mira and Koro stood together, ready for the challenges ahead. The colony had changed forever, and a new story had begun, one of trust, courage, and friendship between humans and dragons. The colony had just begun to breathe again after the fierce battle. The dragon's arrival had changed everything. People whispered about the power and bravery of these great creatures. Mira felt proud of Koro, who had grown stronger and more confident each day. But deep inside, she knew the fight was not over. One quiet evening, the stars shone bright above the colony. Mira was helping tend to the injured in the small clinic. The soft hum of machines and the low voices of helpers filled the room. Koro sat nearby, his bright eyes watching Mira carefully. He was calm but alert. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered and then went out. A cold silence followed. Mira's heart beat faster. Something was wrong. Outside, alarms began to ring loudly. Red lights flashed everywhere. The colony was under attack again. Mira quickly helped the patients to safety. The doctors and nurses hurried through the dark halls. Koro moved close to Mira, sensing her fear but standing strong. The enemy ships had returned this time. They came in much greater numbers. The sky was filled with dark shapes, firing bright beams of energy. The colony's defenses struggled to hold. The sounds of explosions and shouting echoed through the base. Workers and soldiers ran to battle stations. Mira found herself outside, where the air was thick with smoke and fear. In the distance, the dragons took to the sky again. Their mighty wings beat the air as they rose to meet the attackers. But this time, the enemy was prepared. They used new weapons, glowing with strange energy that seemed to block the dragon's fire. Mira watched with worry as the dragons fought harder than ever. Koro flew beside the larger dragons, trying to protect the colony. Suddenly, a powerful blast struck near Mira. She was thrown to the ground but quickly got up. Around her, pieces of metal and dust fell from the broken walls. In the chaos, Mira saw a group of soldiers struggling to hold their position. Without thinking, she ran to help. Using her medical skills, she treated a wounded soldier's arm and gave water to another. Despite the danger, Mira's calm and care gave hope to those around her. Even in the darkest moments, kindness could shine. Meanwhile, the dragons fought fiercely. One of the largest dragons, with scales shining silver, broke through the enemy lines and roared loudly. The sound shook the sky and sent a message. The colony would not fall. As the battle continued through the night, Mira found herself near the command center. Hera and other leaders worked frantically to organize the defense. Hera's face was tired but determined. "We must hold them off until reinforcements arrive," she said. Mira nodded. "The dragons will help. They are strong." Suddenly, Koro appeared beside Mira, glowing brighter than before. He looked at her with fierce eyes. Mira reached out and touched his smooth scales. "You are brave, Koro. We will face this together." At that moment, the colony's sensors picked up a large group of unknown ships approaching fast. The enemy was sending their strongest forces. Panic threatened to spread, but the dragons formed a protective circle around the colony. They breathed fire and struck with claws, pushing back the attackers. Mira stayed close to the injured, helping where she could. She felt Koro's presence near her, giving her strength. Hours passed. The battle was long and hard. Many workers and soldiers fought with courage. The dragons never gave up. Finally, just before dawn, the enemy began to retreat. Their ships disappeared into the stars, leaving the colony battered but alive. The sky grew light, and the dragons landed gently among the people. They were tired but victorious. Mira looked around at the faces of those who had survived. There was relief, sadness, but also hope. Hera approached Mira and spoke quietly. Your courage helped save many lives. And the dragons, they are our true defenders? Mira smiled. We must learn to trust and work together. That is how we will survive. Koro stood beside her, proud and strong. The bond between human and dragon had saved the colony. As the sun rose, the people began to rebuild. Mira knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but with friendship and courage, they could face any challenge. The night attack had tested them all, but it had also shown the power of hope. The battle had ended, but the colony was far from safe. The night attack had shown the true power of the enemy, and many wondered if the danger was over or just beginning. Mira stood among the injured and worried workers, her heart heavy but full of hope. She looked at Koro, who now had grown much larger. His scales glistened under the colony's lights, and his eyes shone with wisdom beyond his young age. The dragons had fought bravely, but they were few. Mira wondered if more dragons still lived beyond the mountains, waiting for a chance to come to the colony's aid. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a distant rumble filled the air. The ground trembled gently. Mira stepped outside, with others, looking toward the mountains. Then, from the shadows, massive shapes began to appear. Huge dragons, far larger than Koro, flew over the ridges, their wings beating powerfully. The colony fell silent in awe. These dragons were majestic, with scales of silver, gold, and deep blue. Their eyes glowed with strength and intelligence. They were the guardians of old legends, the protectors who had once watched over the galaxy. Koro cried out happily, soaring toward the great dragons. They answered his call and landed near the colony's gates. Mira felt a surge of hope and pride. The dragons had come to help. Hera, the colony leader, stepped forward to greet them. We welcome you, great dragons. Our colony owes you much. The dragons spoke through a strange language of roars and sounds. But Mira noticed how they looked kindly at the humans and aliens. One dragon, larger than the rest, approached Mira. His eyes were deep and kind. You saved our young one. The dragon's voice echoed in her mind. For that, we will protect your home. Mira nodded. I only did what was right. The dragons and the colony leaders quickly formed a plan. The enemy would return, and this time, the colony must be ready. Together, humans, aliens, and dragons would stand as one. The next days were busy. Soldiers trained with dragons flying above, practicing coordinated attacks. Mira helped care for both injured people and some dragons who had minor wounds from the battles. Koro grew stronger each day. He learned new skills, practicing flying and breathing fire with the other dragons. He often returned to Mira's side, showing the deep bond they shared. One afternoon, Mira and Koro stood on a hill overlooking the colony. Tilo joined them, his green eyes wide with amazement. Seeing all the dragons here, it feels like a new world, Tilo said. We must be ready for whatever comes. Suddenly, alarms sounded again. This time, the enemy ships appeared even closer than before. The colony was under attack once more. But this time, the dragons and the colony's defenders were ready. Koro took the lead, flying ahead to meet the enemy. Behind him, the great dragons followed, breathing fire and striking with powerful claws. The sky filled with light and sound as the battle began. Mira watched from below, helping the wounded and cheering on the fighters. The dragon's fire melted enemy ships' shields. Soldiers fought bravely, inspired by the dragon's strength. Slowly, the enemy ships began to fall back. The dragons chased them, roaring in victory. After the battle, the colony gathered to celebrate their survival. Hera spoke to the crowd. Today, we have seen the power of unity. Humans, aliens, and dragons standing together. This is the future of our galaxy. Mira stood with Koro, feeling proud and hopeful. The little hatchling she had saved was no longer small and scared. He was a symbol of courage and friendship. The story of Mira and Koro spread across the colony, inspiring many to believe in peace and trust. Together, they had faced danger and won, and together, they would face whatever came next. The battle had passed, and the colony began to heal. The air was filled with the sounds of rebuilding workers repairing broken walls, machines humming back to life. and children playing once more in the safer parts of the base. Mira walked through the colony, helping wherever she could, but her thoughts were heavy. The council had finally called for a meeting. This time, the atmosphere was different. The leaders knew they could no longer ignore the truth about dragons and the threat that had attacked the colony. Mira had waited anxiously for this day, hoping justice and understanding would finally come. The meeting hall was packed. Humans and aliens filled the seats, while the dragon stood near the back, silent but watching. Koro sat beside Mira, now strong and proud, his scales shining in the light. Hera stood at the front and began to speak. We have faced great danger. Together, the enemy who attacked us is a ruthless species. They sought to destroy all dragon life across the galaxy. Our fear and judgment against dragons blinded us to the truth. Mira listened carefully as Hera continued. We wrongly condemned Mira for saving Koro. She showed courage and compassion that saved this colony. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others looking thoughtful. Sarn, the council member who once spoke against Mira, stepped forward. His voice was softer now. I admit we were wrong. Dragons are not our enemies. They are our protectors. We must build a new future. A young alien named Laura spoke next. I have seen how humans and dragons can work together. It brings hope to us all. Mira felt warmth in her heart. The truth was finally being told. Then, Hera shared more. We have received messages from other colonies. They tell stories of dragons fighting bravely against the same enemy, the dragon's ancient. Strength is a key to our survival. Mira stood and spoke, her voice calm but strong. The dragons are not monsters. They are beings of wisdom and power. Koro taught me that trust can change the world. Koro nudged Mira gently, his eyes full of loyalty. The council agreed to form a new alliance. Humans, aliens, and dragons would work side by side to protect the galaxy from any future threats. Mira was honored for her bravery and kindness. Her name became a symbol of hope and unity. The dragons, once feared and hunted, were now respected and loved. They helped train the colony's defenders and shared their knowledge of ancient battles. Koro grew into a powerful dragon, wise beyond his years. He flew with the great dragons, guarding the skies. In the colony below. One evening, Mira stood on a hill overlooking the colony, Koro by her side. The stars shone brightly, and a soft breeze whispered through the trees. We have come far, Mira said softly. Koro looked at her with understanding. Their journey had been hard, but together they had changed the future. The colony was no longer a place of fear, but of friendship and hope, and Mira knew their story was only just beginning. The battle had passed, and the colony began to heal. The air was filled with the sounds of rebuilding workers repairing broken walls, machines humming back to life, and children playing once more in the safer parts of the base. Mira walked through the colony, helping wherever she could, but her thoughts were heavy. The council had finally called for a meeting. This time, the atmosphere was different. The leaders knew they could no longer ignore the truth about dragons and the threat that had attacked the colony. Mira had waited anxiously for this day, hoping justice and understanding would finally come. The meeting hall was packed. Humans and aliens filled the seats, while the dragon stood near the back, silent but watching. Koro sat beside Mira, now strong and proud, his scales shining in the light. Hera stood at the front and began to speak. We have faced great danger. Together, the enemy who attacked us is a ruthless species. They sought to destroy all dragon life across the galaxy. Our fear and judgment against dragons blinded us to the truth. Mira listened carefully as Hera continued. We wrongly condemned Mira for saving Koro. She showed courage and compassion that saved this colony. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others looking thoughtful. Sarn, the council member who once spoke against Mira, stepped forward. His voice was softer now. I admit we were wrong. Dragons are not our enemies. They are our protectors. We must build a new future. A young alien named Laura spoke next. I have seen how humans and dragons can work together. It brings hope to us all. Mira felt warmth in her heart. The truth was finally being told. Then, Hera shared more. We have received messages from other colonies. They tell stories of dragons fighting bravely against the same enemy, the dragon's ancient. Strength is a key to our survival. Mira stood and spoke, her voice calm but strong. The dragons are not monsters. They are beings of wisdom and power. Koro taught me that trust can change the world. Koro nudged Mira gently, his eyes full of loyalty. The council agreed to form a new alliance. Humans, aliens, and dragons would work side by side to protect the galaxy from any future threats. Mira was honored for her bravery and kindness. Her name became a symbol of hope and unity. The dragons, once feared and hunted, were now respected and loved. They helped train the colony's defenders and shared their knowledge of ancient battles. Koro grew into a powerful dragon, wise beyond his years. He flew with the great dragons, guarding the skies. In the colony below. One evening, Mira stood on a hill overlooking the colony, Koro by her side. The stars shone brightly, and a soft breeze whispered through the trees. "We have come far," Mira said softly. Koro looked at her with understanding. Their journey had been hard, but together they had changed the future. The colony was no longer a place of fear, but of friendship and hope, and Mira knew their story was only just beginning.